So Davos Seaworth is that girl. He is the mother I never had. He's a sister everybody wants. He is the friend that everybody deserves. I don't know a better person. Thank you, Oprah. But yeah, Davos is the best. Fight me. A Davos chapter is like a warm hug that reminds you that goodness still exists in the world and might actually be real. And in this series, you need that from time to time. Per this comment, let's do a little overview of Davos, and specifically where the show deviates from the books and what actually is happening in the books when we leave off with Davos. So Davos was born in Flea Bottom in King's Landing, very poor, not from a family of note, they were peasants basically. He grew up to eventually become a smuggler and was, by all intents and purposes, very good at it. That is what he did for his profession. He married a wife, Maria, and they had a certain amount of children by the time we get to Robert's Rebellion. During Robert's Rebellion, Davos did what would eventually lead to his knighthood and, becoming a person with some land and a little bit of wealth, and that was smuggling in food, particularly I think it was like fish and onions, to Storm's End, which was under siege during Robert's Rebellion. Because at the time, the Tyrells were still loyal to the Targaryens, so they basically laid siege. Storm's End was holed up for, I want to say, like a year or two. It was a really long time. They'd completely run out of food. Everyone was starving. They were like boiling leather just to get like some nutrition in them, while the Tyrells were feasting right outside the the castle walls because they're Tyrells. They're extra. I don't know what to tell you. But Davos smuggles them food, basically saves everyone there, and yay, you're gonna get a reward, right? Well, kinda. It's still Stannis. Don't worry. So to reward him, Stannis makes him a knight, gives him some lands, and allows him to, create his own house, essentially. So Davos chooses the name Seaworth, and because people mock him by calling him the Onion Knight, he puts the onion on his banner and says, yeah, this is who I am. And we love the man for it. But then on the flip side, Stannis can't just reward him because technically Davos was a smuggler. And I mean, Stannis could have just rewarded him, but Stannis is, I am iron, I know the rule of the law, and I follow the rule of the law. So on top of giving him all this reward, he does need to punish him still. So he cuts off, I think it was two of the fingers? Two of the fingers. I think it was two. Google has stated that in the books, it was the first joint of his entire left hand, so fun deal. But then after that, Davos keeps the finger joints in a little pouch around his neck as like a little token of luck and a reminder, which is weirdly morbid yet sweet. And one of my favorite / saddest details in the entire series is during the Battle of the Blackwater, the big battle with the wildfire, and Tyrion had like the chain and stuff. It was crazy. Davos loses his pouch with his like finger knuckles, and for the rest of the series, every time there's a Davos chapter, at some point he like tries to reach for his pouch for like good luck, and it's not there, and he gets sad. And when he gets sad, I get sad because like Davos, I wish you had your little your nubbins. I'm sorry. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So something to know, a big change from the books to the TV show is we have cut basically all of Davos' sons. So Davos has a lot of kids in the book series. He has 7 sons, which is like wild considering there's always like a succession crisis in this kingdom. I would assume that there were just like never any boys ever. But Davos has 7, and then the big tragedy for him is the 4 oldest ones who are like now grown adults. They all die during the Battle of the Blackwater. So in the TV show, he loses his like 1 son, very sad. But here he loses 4, and I'm just like, oh, that's horrible, God. At the time, 5 of his sons had been in service to, like Stannis and his army. So 4 die in ships, and then one of them, the youngest of the ones that were, with Davos and Stannis, his name is Devon, and I think he's Stannis' squire, maybe? But he's the only one that survives who was, like, nearby-ish. And then his 2 youngest sons still live at home with his wife Maria, which is another like funny, sad detail because again, in every like Davos chapter, he like thinks about his wife, and in his head it's just like, my wife is so great, she's wonderful, she's the nicest lady, I wish I could go home to her and the 2 little boys, that would be great, wouldn't it? But he doesn't get to because he's just a stand-up guy and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So post Blackwater, Davos, he's had a rough go of things. He gets a little antsy, and he decides to kill Melisandre for what he thinks was her sacrificing his sons in the fire. But technically, it was the wildfire. It wasn't Melisandre. It was different. But still, he tries to kill her. He gets thrown in a prison cell because that's just what happens to Davos. Davos is imprisoned a lot in this series. But eventually she like convinces him to like help Stannis because Stannis isn't doing well. Because remember, in the previous book, he'd helped Melisandre make 2 shadow babies, and it has like drained his life force. He is haggard, he is not sleeping, and Melisandre is like the only one like keeping him sane, alive, whatever you want to call it. But even after he's released, Melisandre is doing what she do, and she really wants to burn Edric Storm, who is one of Robert Baratheon's bastard kids, because Robert in the books has a bunch of bastard kids, and you meet like several different ones throughout the journey, if you will, not just Gendry. Anyway, she wants to burn Edric Storm, and Davos is like, we're not doing that, and so he helps basically smuggle Edric out of Dragonstone and sent away so that Melisandre can't get her hands on him. But then Stannis gets really angry and he's like about to kill Davos, but then Davos, who has been learning to read up until this point, though not with Shireen, that was like a show only thing, though I will say it is a show only thing that I like. I love their relationship in the show, which you don't really get in the books, but it's okay. Anyway, Davos has been learning to read. He's just read Maester Aemon's like cry for help from the wall because they had like sent all the rangers up north and they'd lost everyone and Mormont was dead. It was a mess. But Davos had been learning to reading like the correspondence that was coming into Dragonstone. He's like, hey, before you kill me, you might want to hear about this. And that's what convinces Stannis to go up north to fight the real enemy, the others. So they go up north, Davos, Stannis, they fight the wildlings, they win, woohoo, it's all great. But now Stannis wants to try to secure most of the north because by this point, Robb is dead and the north has been supplanted by the Boltons. So this is where it really, diverges from the show because Stannis sends Davos to go treat with Wyman Manderly, who is the head of House Manderly, a northern house in White Harbor, which is like the big city in the north. But because things can't go well for Davos, Davos gets there and is almost immediately imprisoned because the Wymans are now like the Manderlys, sorry. The Manderlys are seemingly in league with the Boltons and the Freys. But it's kind of weird because Wyman Manderly lost a son during the Red Wedding, so like, why are you chill with the Freys? They literally killed your child. That's weird. But when Davos is brought before them, Wyman puts on a big show. He's angry. He's like this big, like ridiculously obese man who like is so obese that he cannot sit on a horse because the horse will just kaput. Okay. So Wyman's like raging. There's some Freys there who are like, calling Davos a traitor and stuff. And there's lots of kerfuffling and fighting. And Wyman's like, you're being thrown in prison and you're probably gonna die, just FYI. Because Cersei Lannister has demanded Davos's head and hands in exchange for Wyman Manderly's other son, who was captured at the Red Wedding instead of killed, to be released. So Wyman Manderly agrees to do that, and they chop the head off a person and some hands, and they get like dunked in tar and stuck on a spike around the wall. And that's the end of Davos. Or is it? It's not, but we think it is because in A Feast for Crows, which is the book before this is happening, we don't get any Davos chapters, but we hear that Davos has been killed by the Manderlys in a Cersei POV, and then, because the next book wouldn't be out for 5 years, people just thought Davos was dead for 5 years, or like thought that it was a distinct possibility, which sounds terrifying. But anyway, he wasn't actually killed. So he was like thrown in a prison cell, but the cell is like very nice. He's being well fed, treated super well, and he's very confused. But then eventually Davos is like brought up into a secret chamber while there's like this big feast going on because Wyman's son, I think it's Wendell Manderly, has been like released and brought back because they killed Davos. And so now all the Freys and stuff, they're having a big party upstairs. And Wyman's like, hey, I'm not really with them. I'm just doing what I gotta do, okay? But while you're here, we figured out that Rickon Stark isn't dead. We figured out that him, his direwolf, and his wildling woman have gone to Skagos, the cannibal island. So Davos, I'm gonna send you to go there, because everyone thinks you're dead, so instead, you're gonna go to the place that could probably kill you, and you're gonna save Rickon Stark. Cool? Cool. And again, because Davos is just the best, he's the nicest guy, he's just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, okay, thanks. And that's where we leave Davos. Okay, goodbye.